Hello and welcome to Kandela. In this Indian economy lecture, let's discuss one very interesting topic, balance of payment. According to RBI, so balance of payment is the systematic record of all the economic transactions which the resident of our country makes with the rest of the world. This is one topic which is very important and interesting. Throughout, since independence, it is very important. So, we being in our country, we export some products. For example, from, let this be India, and we are exporting some product to United States of America. Say some textile product, say some machinery, or say some agricultural product. After exporting that product, we can expect them to pay us for the export, right? They'll be paying us in dollars. And here in India, we cannot receive the dollar and we cannot use it for any transaction. So, this currency will be converted into Indian rupee, and the exporter will get the Indian rupee. And this US dollar which we received here, right, this will go to RBI. RBI stores this dollar as a foreign exchange. In India, RBI is the sole custodian of the foreign exchange reserves. The RBI Act of 1934. The RBI Act very clearly prescribes that in India, RBI is the sole custodian of all the foreign exchange reserves. RBI, right, may give license to some other financial institutions to deal with the foreign exchange transactions, like the Western Union money transfer. But these financial institutions need to report all their intraday as well as interday financial transactions. And suppose somebody from India, if they want to go to some other country to make a foreign trip, say to Europe, to Paris, to Barcelona, there we cannot carry Indian currency. We cannot go and convert our Indian currency there in Europe. So from our country itself, we need to carry dollars or euro with us. So for that, this foreign exchange reserves, which is there with the RBI, right, we'll be using it. So we'll convert our Indian currency into euro or into dollars, and then we can carry it to some other foreign country. Similarly, when we import a particular commodity, for example, we import a large quantity of mineral oil from the Gulf countries. So we cannot pay them in Indian rupee. So we need to pay them in a hard currency. Hard currency means so these are currencies for which there will be a consistent demand in the global market, and the demand will always be high. Dollar, pound sterling, euro, these are examples for hard currencies. So for making this international payment also we need foreign exchange. So remember, RBI is the sole custodian of foreign exchange reserves in our country. And there were many times, right, we have faced a number of times we have faced a crisis in foreign exchange. So in this lecture, after discussing what this balance of payment is, what is a current account, what is a capital account, what is a trade account, what is an invisible, etc., let's also discuss the chapters like the balance of payment crisis, then the issue of a full capital account convertibility. Twice the government of India have appointed one expert committee under the chairmanship of Shri Tarapur to look into the issue of full capital account convertibility. All the parameters now are as prescribed by Tarapur are good enough for us to move ahead with the capital account convertibility. But still we are not doing it. So what exactly is that issue? And then foreign exchange management. So now we have a surplus foreign exchange with us. We have more than $400 billion with us. And what RBI can do with this foreign exchange management? There are two pillars of foreign exchange management: safety and liquidity. So these are the basic pillars of foreign exchange management and what RBI does with the foreign exchange or how it manages it and what are the ways by which it holds the foreign exchange. So that we'll be discussing, followed by the special drawing rights of IMF. So now first let us discuss what this balance of payment is. As I told you, balance of payment refers to the systematic list of or systematic record of transactions which the resident of a country make with the rest of the world. So balance of payment broadly we can classify this into current account and capital account. Current account and capital account. By this transaction we will get income. Money will come into the country and money will also go out of the country. By export, we earn foreign exchange. By import, we spend our foreign exchange. The balance between the export and the import, how much money we earned out of export and how much money we spend out of import, that forms the trade account. For a major mineral oil importing country like India, trade account will always be negative. So though there are number of oil wells in our country, we have oil wells in Assam, we have oil wells in Gujarat, the great Ankaleshwar, we have the offshore fields in Bombay High. But with this oil production, we are not capable of meeting the local demand, and more than 70% of our demand, we are meeting it by import. So there is a major strain here in the trade account component because of the mineral oil import. As a result, for a net mineral oil importing country like India, trade account will always be negative. So apart from trade account, we also have the next account here which is a part of current account, which is the invisible. Invisibles. These invisibles, right, this includes services, private transfers, income from our investment, income from our offices outside the country, etc. So, services, long back, right, without no, see, we were too much, not skeptical actually. We didn't realize the potential of a service sector earlier. So, service sector was a part of invisible. But nowadays, we all know that service sector contributes for more than 50% of our GDP. So at the time of independence, the contribution of our service sector in our GDP was less than 30%. Agriculture's contribution was more than 50%. But now things are changing. The contribution of service sector is more than 50%, and the contribution of agriculture in our economy has come down. It's less than 15% now. But our country is getting fast industrialized, and there is a very fantastic growth in our service sectors also. So, but remember, services forms a part of invisibles. So, whatever service which we provide to the other countries, we may provide hospitality service, financial service, or now even the software services, all the software exports which we make from our country, right? These are not part of the trade account. These are services exports, and these are the part of invisibles. Got it? So remember, all the software services which we are providing to the other countries, all the software exports which we are making from our country, and the other financial services. So all the transactions are a part of invisibles. So this is current account. For India, most of the time current account will always be negative. But there were instances when the current account also marginally became positive. So the stress in the current account was responsible for the balance of payment crisis. On the other hand, what is this capital account? So this capital account, this largely includes the debt creating component. These are largely debt creating. For example, we borrow money or we get foreign assistance from the developed countries. Economic assistance at a concessional rate of interest, right? We also go for commercial borrowing. We call it as external commercial borrowing. We also go for short-term credits. Borrowing from IMF. All these things belongs a part of capital account. Even FDI, foreign direct investment, is also a part of current account. Because of somebody from some other country is investing in your country, and after some time, right, they'll take back their investment back. It's not going to remain here permanently. So even FDI is also a part of capital account. So income here in this side, right? At times we also expenditure. In fact, we also provide soft loans to some poor countries. We also provide loan at commercial terms to some other country. So Indians also go and invest outside. So all those things are a part of the capital account expenditure side. So guys, are you comfortable with this two column, current account, capital account? So by current account, we refer to trade account plus invisibles. So remember this thing very clearly. I'll just tell you one more time because it's something very, very important. Current account includes trade account plus invisibles. Also remember, services are part of invisibles. Services are a part of invisibles. Okay, so now let's discuss the first one, the balance of payment crisis in our country. So the balance of payment crisis largely occurs because of excessive current account deficit. We call it as CAD. Current account deficit. Immediately after independence, We had surplus foreign exchange reserves. So that was largely because of the sterling balance. Which we received from the United Kingdom. So they owed a lot to us for the Second World War, and they made that payment promptly. So immediately after independence, we had a surplus sterling with us. But soon, right, we started spending it out, and within a matter of 10 years, during the second 5-year plan, we faced our first important balance of payment crisis. So it was then, Nehruji was busy making plan with the Mahalanobis, the very famous Nehru Mahalanobis model of planning. In this particular model of planning, to deal with the current account deficit, we restored to one policy called as the import substitution strategy of industrialization. Import substitution. So it was during this time we were facing, we are importing large scale heavy machineries for our industrialization, like the textile machinery, even the large boilers for our industrial requirement. We are importing it from Europe. Here, apart from the product cost, the transport cost also adds to more problem here. So Nehru and Mahalanobis, they felt that first we need to curtail this import by domestic production. That is replacing the import of these heavy machineries by local production. Subsequently, right, this particular strategy gave way for the setting up of a number of industries meant for heavy manufacturing. Bharat Heavy Plates and Vessels Limited came up in Visakhapatnam. The Praga Tools in Secunderabad. And there are a number of Triveni Structurals, the very famous Triveni Structurals in Allahabad. So many such large industries meant for manufacturing industrial machineries came into being. So it was during this time the so-called Bombay Club. A club of big industrial houses in Bombay. They warned Jawaharlal Nehru, Nehru, please do not go blind after Mahalanobis. He was so bookish a professor, and try to understand the real problem in our country. Population is exploding, and there is a need to look into industries which can generate employment. They insisted, Jawaharlal Nehru, please go ahead with the industries meant for employment generation. For example, textile industries, leather industries. Textile industry is capable of providing large-scale employment opportunity. But Nehru had no time to listen to them, and he went ahead with the problem of, he went ahead with his strategy of import substitution. Later, in fact, in 1970s, the large-scale unemployment rate was largely because of this particular strategy. But still, by this strategy, Nehru managed to achieve what he actually wanted to achieve. He managed to control the current account deficit. By around 1959-1960, The balance of payment almost, the problem got solved almost, and we managed to have some considerable reserves. But soon, within a matter of another 5 years, between 1964 once again we started facing the balance of payment crisis. Now the problem was largely because of debt service. Debt servicing means paying interest for the debts which you took. The money which you have borrowed from IMF, the money which you have borrowed from other international financial institutions. And then imports to some extent. So we just started facing the crisis. By the year 1965, we had another major issue. That is the war with Pakistan. As a result, a number of developed countries like USA, a few countries from Europe who were providing financial assistance or soft loans to our country, they stopped providing all the financial assistance to our country. And the crisis really became a very big crisis, war, expenditure, a huge deficit in the budget. We had no other way. And we were forced to do devaluation of the currency. So devaluation means it is a process by which we will be reducing the value of our currency in international market. So in the year 1966, we were forced to devaluate our rupee. In real terms, it was up to the tune of 36.5%. So before devaluation, $1 was equal to 4.7 rupees. And after devaluation, $1 became 7.5 rupees. Along with this, right, there was a very big complaint from the global community that we are having too many restrictions in our country. We are not allowing free imports. So that's why most of the developed countries are not providing financial assistance to our country. So now there was an attempt to liberalize our economy. So for the first time, we tried to reduce import tariff and to allow large-scale market access to the other countries. But even after doing that, we didn't expect any inflow, or whatever we expected didn't happen. Still, the developed countries were so reluctant to resume the financial assistance to our country. As a result, we reversed the policy once again, and once again, right, we have revised the import tariffs, and we took a U-turn. So condition was going on like this. By around 1973, few interesting things happened. For the first time in the history, in the year 1973-74, current account marginally became positive. marginally, just by 100 crores only, but still, what a beauty. For the first time, current account becomes positive. So what exactly happened in the 1930, 1973-34? The first major oil crisis. So there was the international oil prices soared. Along with that, we had a huge diaspora of Indian population working there in the oil fields in the Gulf countries. So even their salary got increased, and these people who are working in Gulf countries or Indians, they started making huge foreign remittances into our country. So how much ever money they are getting in extra, right? They just are sending it to their family in India. I am sending you money. Keep it, keep it, keep it like that. So this large scale foreign remittances made by the Indians in the Gulf countries resulted in a marginal increase or marginally our current account becoming positive for the first time. But it didn't stay there for a long time. Immediately in the very next year, right, once again it fell back. It fell back. Then came the real big BOP crisis in the year 1991. This is a very big BOP crisis. And this was largely because of the mismanagement of the country in the past 5 years. Somewhere between 1985 to 90, when we didn't have a stable government at the union, when we didn't have a proper vision for the country. At the same time, the foreign tour made by our Indian officials, Indian politicians, bureaucrats, etc., that costed us so heavily, and to what extent the condition can become pathetic. There was a time when our total foreign exchange reserves became just 750 million, roughly around 1,500 crores. With this, we can import for only next 14 days. After which there will be no money for us to import. And when we have reached this condition, most of the foreign countries, they'll become so pessimistic, they are running short severely. So better do not import any commodity to them. We have reached such a vast crisis, and once again we are forced to go to IMF, International Monetary Fund, for help. Always remember, whenever we have issue related to foreign exchange, whenever we have a crisis in balance of payment, whenever we are not in a position to do proper international payment, we cannot approach World Bank, but we need to approach only IMF for help. It is IMF which deals with all these foreign international transactions. Got it? Okay. So once again we have approached IMF for help. But this time IMF promised, yeah, we will help India, we will help you, but certainly not in the way in which you are. So we will help you only if you introduce economic reforms. Look in China, 20 years back, during 1970s itself, they have initiated the very famous Deng's reform. 20 years on, now there is a need. You need to think about opening your country. We need to think about introducing economic reforms. Then only we will be in a position to provide any help to you. So the so-called economic reforms were forced on our country, and we are forced to introduce the very famous stabilization program and stabilization program and the structural adjustment program. This we call it as the economic reforms, the very famous Rao Manmohan model of planning. The stabilization program is a short-term program. This is largely crisis-driven and this aimed at addressing the immediate issues, while the structural adjustment program is a major reform process where how slowly we opened our economy, how we got our economy integrated with the global economy, reforms in public sector, reforms in industrial reforms, reforms in manufacturing, export promotion, etc. All these were the part of structural adjustment program, and least we need to speak about even the reforms in financial sectors. The very famous structural adjustment program. So along with these economic reforms, once again for the second time, we have also devaluated our currency once again. So this time we did it by 22%. So before doing it, $1 was equal to some 20 to 21 rupees, and after devaluation, $1 became equal to 27 rupees. 27 rupees. So then India joined guard of the very famous LPG liberalization, privatization, globalization. At the same time, right, we also introduced a number of measures for export promotion. We also introduced the policy of making special economic zones aimed at export promotion. And things were going on. By the year 2003, between 2001 to 2003-04, once again for the second time, current account became positive. Current account became positive. And this time it was not because of any foreign remittances. This was because of the performances of our service sector. Most importantly, our software services. For 3 consecutive years, current account remained positive. But once again, after 2003-04, it became negative. It was largely because of once again soaring oil prices, and along with that, we also liberalized gold imports. As a result, right, once again we started importing huge commodities and current account became negative. But irrespective of anything, because of correcting our fundamentals and the export promotion and the performance of our economic sector, from just a matter of $750 million as foreign exchange reserves. By the year, this happened in the year 1991. Somewhere by 2017, now we managed to have more than $409.5 billion of foreign exchange reserves. Now, in fact, we have surplus foreign exchange with us. Though every year, right, our current account tend to be negative, but still, we managed to accumulate huge quantity of foreign exchange reserves. And so what we are going to do with the reserves? So that we'll be discussing in our next lecture, foreign exchange reserve management. Then what is that issue of convertibility? So we followed a dual system of exchange rate system where all the transactions under current account is fully convertible and all the transactions under capital account is not fully convertible. So what is that issue? That we will discuss later. And once again, right, I'll just leave what are all the things you need to keep in mind or you need to remember from this lecture. So the two components of balance of payment. Number one, current account, and number two, capital account. Also remember, current account includes trade account, plus invisibles. Services are a part of invisibles. Then capital account largely includes the debt component. Also remember, even FDI is a part of a capital account. And we have discussed about balance of payment crisis, then the devaluation of currency. In one separate lecture, let us also discuss about the appreciation and the depreciation of Indian currency. So what are the pros and cons of both the events? So when a currency appreciates, that is, when the value of the currency becomes more in international market, what will happen? Or when our currency depreciates, when the value of the currency falls in international market, what are all the ramifications? So that we'll be discussing in our subsequent lecture. I hope you are comfortable with the balance of payment, the various transactions under balance of payment, and the balance of payment crisis and how we dealt with that in the past. So in the next lecture, let us discuss the remaining issues. Until then, thank you.